Hello, and welcome to the Gluten-Free Psychiatry Podcast. This is episode 12, VA Disability Evaluations, one veteran to another. I've created the one-page VA Disability Tracker. It's a simple checklist that has all of the clickable links for every document you need for a mental health compensation pension evaluation, the links to submit that for your appointment for the CMP evaluation, and the link to submit my report and the CMP, all your records, straight to the VA yourself without involving the Postal Service. It's all on one page. I think it might replace the need for an advocate if you can get all this to me. And they take some money from veterans now when they settle on your first back pay check. And I don't think that may be necessary for a lot of people if they know these steps. So I've got a lot of experience with VA disability from being a service-connected veteran since the year 2000, 25 years now, myself. I developed this for a family member and then realized it was incomplete when it came time to do it myself. And so that's when I built the tracker. I was like, I've got a great webpage here on it, but I don't have a tracker if I was actually going to do it. So what I'm doing is I've set this up where I'm going to go through all the steps, and I need to upgrade my service connection request of a degenerative condition in my neck. It's currently 10% for the last 25 years. And now I can't sleep and work full time over it. So it's time for me to do something about that. I'm going to make sure my advice is perfect for you. And so stay tuned to the podcast and show. If I get through my whole process by 2026, probably, then I will be able to post any updates, or if I needed to change the advice somehow, if I found my advice was not perfect. Okay, that's my commitment to you. By the end of 2026, this page will have a one-pager so you can share it with your veterans. And I happen to throw in 6 extra bonus pages of all kinds of free links on my program that is a totally free, wide open, no passwords or anything in your way, to a world-class behavioral health program. If you can't stop your job for 2 months and go inpatient to do a PTSD program, you don't have to. You can just stream these audios and videos straight to your car while you're driving back and forth to work, and you'll know everything that they teach in the hospital. So at Mindshift Care, what's one thing that's different among a lot of things is that the mainstream psychiatric care, the knowledge, not the prescriptions, obviously, because I only have 4 state medical licenses, but all of the teaching, all of the mainstream knowledge about psychiatry is available free on my website right now. It's just all out there. I mind shifted the entire industry by putting a virtual intensive outpatient program online. I wrote the books and taught them at programs I was medical director of, and I went home while it was fresh on my mind at the time and recorded them all online. So you'll get a one-page VA disability evaluation tracker, and I throw in all this bonus free wide open stuff. I promise there's nothing tricky about it. I don't use tracking, AI. I'm not in Google AdWords where they're watching all the websites you're going to. There's no advertisements in your way. It's just me. It's just me, one veteran helping another veteran. So let's go through this. And if you are ready to get started, you can jump down to the bottom of this page and download the tracker and get started right now. In fact, if you want to do that while you're listening to the rest of this podcast, that's what I recommend. You'll have a printed tracker, if you got a printer, put it on your fridge today, and you will already have started making some steps by the time you're done with this, listening to this podcast. So jump down there and get started while you keep listening. So I'm going to read part of this and then walk through and on the video show what's going on. VA disability evaluations, one veteran to another. Physical and mental ailments follow veterans throughout their lives, like I mentioned with my neck. Some things that start out to be relatively minor turn out to be disabling as we age. And here's a lot of the symptoms. They sort of flow in this order a little bit sometimes. Tinnitus, yes, that's important in mental health. Hearing loss, yes, and chronic pain of any type. Chronic fatigue, anger and irritability, social isolation, losing jobs and relationships, night sweats, depression, panic attacks, and addictions of all types. And when I say all types, I mean all types. From pornography to gambling, any addiction. The chemistry in the body is the same with all addictions. The chemistry in the body, which means the treatment is similar, right? It's the awakening of the rest of the self, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. The most successful addiction program uses spiritual awakening. That's the 12-step model if you read the books. From 1939. Yeah, it's been around a while. No one can beat it. 12 steps for addiction. So I just want to throw a little tips along the way for my veterans who may never see a psychiatrist. So eventually, when these problems build up, the veteran will get worse and worse. They'll need to apply for benefits. And by the time they get that bad, they usually aren't sleeping very well. They've had high cortisol levels going around in the blood. And what happens in that condition is the cortisol has a negative effect on the hippocampus in the brain. The hippocampus, the same area affected by PTSD itself. So if you're trying to make a claim for PTSD and you wait too long till you're really, really bad, and angry and not leaving the house and volatile and have a panic attack at a gas station, swing at people at a gas station, getting a little dicey, and you're afraid to be around your kids, any of that stuff ring a bell, then you need some energy release work, okay? Energy release work, and I've got some programs. In fact, there's a lot of gender confusion going on, and lately I'm working on a program to help people that have gender energy problems and imbalances, especially when there's been psychological damage and trauma, because then people's subconscious programming of youth gets sort of fractured, where they're going to try to reprogram their subconscious, and they don't realize they're drinking gender transition chemicals in the tap water and in plastic water bottles and energy drinks. So there's a whole lot more going on to the quantum psychotoxicology warfare that's being pushed upon all of us now. So as a former behavioral health officer, stick with me on the podcast, and I'll be throwing that stuff in along the way. My point was, you need a one-page VA disability tracker. You literally have biological problems, and there's brain damage, there's nerve damage from either PTSD or from chronic sleep deprivation alone that drives up the cortisol. It doesn't matter which causes it. The result is the same on the hippocampus. Head injury itself, like traumatic brain injury, that's a separate compensation and pension evaluation. It has to be done in person. So I'm sorry, I can't provide those. I can only do all the mental health disorders and the PTSD. And PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is the only condition that the VA now accepts as circumstantial evidence. You don't have to have proof. You didn't have to report the trauma. You may have no other witnesses to the event. There may be no medical records. But you tell me the time and the place. You write some statement letters, like have some Buddy Lay statements written. You'll see below. And you might be surprised, because no joke, something from 1995 when I was E4, I was a specialist, a staff sergeant over there sexually harassed me a little bit, but under those rules, it didn't even qualify as sexual harassment. It was super minor. Under the new rules, what happened to me in 1995 is considered a military sexual trauma. I'm not kidding. It's a very minor issue. She rubbed my hand and whistled at me in the parking lot. But that now is considered a military sexual trauma. It's not a life-threatening, force of anything that qualifies for PTSD diagnosis. But I have to admit, I have seen some veterans messed up over more minor things like that, rather than a rape or anything, assault or a threat of assault or a stalking, anything that's really life-threatening and fearful, as opposed to being invited to sleep with the cafeteria lady in basic training. But if it really messes you up, you may request an appeal, or you may look into a diagnosis that's not post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's called other specified trauma disorder or other trauma disorder. It's this other category. There's still a mental health diagnosis. And it doesn't matter what we call these diagnoses, whether it's insomnia secondary to tinnitus, or anxiety secondary to hearing loss, depression secondary to hearing loss, because you can't talk with your family. So it doesn't really matter what caused it or what the diagnosis is. Maybe it's not PTSD from combat, but maybe the hearing loss is bothering you 30 years later and you can't sleep, and you're getting pretty damn angry about it, and it's causing a lot of arguments with your spouse. And don't do that to your spouse, man. Get some help. I can help you in one appointment. Okay? And if you need my couples program, let me know. Let me know. All right? So let's keep going through this. I am Dr. Daniel Williams, a former major in the Texas Army National Guard. I served 10 years as a behavioral health officer, which is a 60 whiskey in Texas, both as a captain and as a major at the 36th Infantry Division. And before that, like 12-year break in between service, I was regular Army for 6 years as a veterinary food inspector, where I spent 4 years in Germany. So when I first joined the Army at age 21, raised my right hand, my first duty assignment after basic at Fort Leonard Wood and AIT at Fort Sam. Then I went straight to Germany for 3 years, and I extended a year. So I was one of those Germany soldiers that got there 3 years after the Berlin Wall came down. So the economy changed. It was a different time. You go over into Berlin. It was awesome. Awesome. And I was lonely, and I had all my emotional problems that I've learned about now. So if you consider joining my private community, you'll hear of stories I cannot tell the public, I promise. Let's just say when I watch Cops, it's like old home week. I did a lot of that stupid stuff. I'm not supposed to know what I know, and I can help you no matter how far down you have slid. So when you first book an appointment with me, I'll go through a full psychiatric evaluation, hit all the major mental health disorders. Make sure you don't have anything, because if you've got psychosis or OCD hiding under there, I'm telling you, those should be, OCD should be considered a serious mental illness. So I'm not going to leave out my psychiatric training just because you're in some other state and I'm not your psychiatrist, but I'm reviewing your military records to give you a review or independent medical opinion or a compensation and pension evaluation. I've been doing that for a year, and it doesn't matter what state or what country you're in. You can do this evaluation with me from anywhere in the world. Okay? Yeah, I think I've got your attention. If I do, please leave me some feedback. I'm brand new at this. Social media is just harsh, and I'm not going to put up with it. So I really need one veteran helping another out there. If I can help you with any of this, please share these documents, like the VA disability tracker I'm telling you to work through. Send it to all your buddies. Blast it through social media. It's totally free. There's no passwords. There's no tricks. There's no affiliate links to any products or services I'm trying to pay for in there. Okay? There's no tricks. I made it on my Microsoft Word, on my computer, in my RV, which I'm turning into a sound spa studio that's mobile for my brand. So I may be coming to a city near you and showing you 10 or 12 different modalities that I can travel around and create sort of a break room for integrative healthcare clinics, things like that. So I've got some ideas to make this interactive and demonstrative and really change people's life and on film in ways that you can see. And so stick with me and let people know about all this free resources I think are better organized than anywhere I've ever seen. I couldn't have made this a year ago. It has taken me every bit of my practice and training and career to get it to be on one page with all the links. I think possibly nullifying the need for a disability advocate. Now, I'm talking about for mental health only. I don't do any of the medical, but I know someone who does, and I've invited him to do a podcast with me as well. So stay tuned for that one. If you have medical help you need for your service connections, bring me medical records. I can give you secondary connections if it's relevant, like insomnia, secondary to chronic pain, something like that. And it's about your degree of severity. What's your impairment level that matters the most? Your symptoms and your impairment level. So if you can't work because of tinnitus, you could be 100% service connected. Now, as someone that does medical opinions and compensation and pension evaluations, I can't tell you what your rating percentage is going to be. I can tell you that on the form I fill out, one veteran to another, I have 7 options. The first option is no mental diagnosis. Okay? That's rare. And then the top one, number 7, says total impairment, functional and social impairment. So just come to me and be honest. Don't read the internet on how to game your service connection. There's a lot of people that lie and try to trick the system. I've worked at the VA, and it's very unfortunate that our system incentivize people financially to lie about their mental health symptoms. Because after 10 or 15 years, if you get 100% service connection, they're going to want another appointment to make sure how you're doing. And if you're doing fantastic because you had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 appointments with me or whatever, if you're doing fantastic, you're going to be motivated to tell them you're not. And that's unfortunate. You shouldn't be put in that situation. I've been with many veterans that are either stealing valor or lying about their symptoms to keep the money coming. And what no one is talking about is the fact that that's a spiritual problem. And I'm here as a psychiatrist trying to help you with your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional growth. And at some point it becomes toxic to try to perpetuate lies. You don't have to lie to me. Just bring me your symptoms. In fact, quite the opposite. Most of the time, I'm good with the veterans who don't talk about their feelings. Older, like Vietnam, or I used to take care of World War II veterans. I don't really have so much anymore. They're pretty much gone. But I did that just 5 years ago at the VA. They were still around. They probably still are. Few and far between, especially getting mental health because they didn't talk about it. They had the problems, though. And Hollywood and the media and the government programmed their children to turn against them and spit on the Vietnam veterans when they get off the airplanes. So we flipped from the greatest generation to the worst children of the greatest generation this country has ever seen, even more than the Civil War, where both sides at least tried to have a point. All right, so I'm an independent voice for behavioral health, and I may go on little rants, but I'm a psychiatrist that's intentionally throwing darts into your brain to penetrate your defenses are going to help you by just listening to me. Listen to this over and over, because I probably will throw in a lot of details you didn't catch the first time. Because you're driving down the road. Drive safe. All right, here's the disability packet. And I am at this point going to switch over to the one-page tracker on the video for you to see this. The disability tracker. See, there's a little note here that says, please share. It's totally free. Okay, the appointment with me costs money for my time and education and experience. And the work I do before and after. Because if you're open to it, I'll throw in an ancient healing modality that shaman used to do or pray for you in my tradition. Something like that. During the session. So I do some practices before and after, give myself plenty of time, like 2 hours, to talk to you. And it only takes about an hour and 15 minutes for me to turn around a veteran that's been in a bad way for a long time. A lot of times, about 45 minutes, you're feeling better. Okay? That's average. All right, so listen to the clip about healing in the podcast on this checklist. See, that's the top of the link right here on the page. Here it is. I'm going to give you the spiel. The spiel is that electromagnetic waves are going through your body when you have a flashback. So if you have war flashbacks or feelings you don't like that come up, whether that's panic attacks or anything, this is the spiel I give the veterans now. That there are things you can do with the electromagnetic wave portion that's in your body when the flashback comes back. Not the mental memory like Western psychology tries to do. They're constantly reframing, or what they call cognitive processing therapy. The program, the videos about exactly how that works are all online for free because that's mainstream. Remember, at Mindshift Care, everything mainstream is already online for free. Okay? Except for my time and prescriptions and medical licenses if you need that. But all the things that they teach about how the therapy, even for the therapists, is online. I have a book that teaches the therapists how to do it. So it used to be combined with my Combat PTSD in America book. So if you really want to know how it all works, buy all my books and read them. If you're in school or something, if you want to be a doctor, if you're a psychiatry resident and you want some experience talking to people with PTSD, or you're a psychiatrist and wants to give back, I want to help, grease the skids. So that's a little easier and smoother for you so you don't offend people. Unfortunately, a lot of people get offended if they're not handled properly by a civilian that doesn't understand how to talk to veterans. So the next thing I tell veterans is that I recommend Emotion Code because they take magnets and they swipe them down the back of your spine to wipe away or clear off the electromagnetic wave that's come to the surface. Not even during a flashback. You don't have to talk about what's happening. You can be feeling fine. And a stranger can tell you what year and what emotion that they just swiped off your back with a magnet. And you'll know exactly what year and emotion happened without telling them a story. So I love Emotion Code for our veterans. This is a huge alternative or complementary alternative medicine approach for PTSD and any kind of mental health stress after military service that the VA really needs to pick up. If you work at the VA, please explain it exactly like this to the veterans. The emotion code, you don't have to talk about what happened. You can go make an appointment with a stranger. You keep your clothes on, so there's no massage or anything weird. They're not even doing Reiki love energy that makes some people afraid. Some people are afraid of love now, okay? It's serious, and you can recover from that. Some people don't even want Reiki because it scares them, because they feel things that they need, probably. But we reject that, right? We don't want to drink smoothies sometimes. Yeah. So what else? It's painless. It's not like acupuncture. The VA does accept acupuncture now, and the Reiki energy love, and the Qigong movements that's demonstrated in the Healing Field documentary. I interviewed Penny Lavin that made the Healing Field documentary. Go back and watch that one. I made sure she was my first interview because all of my lectures in this podcast are in order, because we're going to change the world, and I'm looking for a veteran healing corps to maybe become online certified in emotion code. Did you know if it changes your life, and let's say you're doing good, you have a job and a family, but you're starting to get a little twitchy, man, and you're not sleeping, you're tired all the time. This is the time to do emotion code, because you only need one appointment, okay? If you are depressed, angry, a little dangerous, or drinking and never leaving the house, if you can't work, you only need 3 emotion code appointments, okay? And you will be jump started. Then go rescue a dog from a shelter. Start your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional 100-day plan. My Mind Shift plan here, totally free online. If you watch the videos, the book costs, a printing cost. It's just a drop ship company. I make a few dollars off the books. That's it. Okay? And otherwise, it's totally free. I spend more time paying a CPA to cover my taxes for me than I do off those books, unless we make a major change here. So you can have a practitioner map on emotion code. Their website is discoverhealing.com. So get a pen for the rest of this. I'm going to give you a couple websites. Discoverhealing.com. The other documentary is The Healing Field, and that's there in the podcast number 10. All right, so on with this. That is the healing clip I want you to listen to. That's the very first link. So if you'll share this document with your buddy, they're going to hear the exact same explanation. They might try emotion code, even if you didn't. And I'm telling you, if you can get one person in your buddy group to try this and start gushing on it and see how it works, you can have the mind shift. It's the fastest, easiest, painless way to get the mind shift. There's dozens of ways. You can talk it through. You can work it out physically. Emotion code is painless, bro. 1 or 2 or 3 times, all you need. And I would hope that you would learn an energy healing release technique of your own. You can get certified in that one, or just watch the documentary, read the book, and understand how it works enough and start adapting it yourself. Immediately, you'll start adapting when you see that you can do that. When I can convince you, you can release stuck, trapped energies from your body on your own, and in some ways, you're probably already doing it, and it's you're not even conscious. Then you'll have a mind shift. And emotion code is the fastest way to get that. And this second link here on the document is that world-class PTSD lectures are complimentary. And that's the virtual intensive outpatient program I'm talking about. All these videos and courses there for how to mind shift. I have about 7 classes online. And if your partner is not so much into this, or if you're the spouse of the partner that's the veteran, and you can't get the veteran to do this, they won't fill out the paperwork. They won't talk to you about it. They say, I don't need nothing from this government. Okay? Let them listen to this. Let them listen to this. Because I, in many ways, agree with them. All right? So basically, this tracker is a way for you to track the dates you accomplish these steps. So you got phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. You're military, so you know about that. And phase 1 is just requesting all these documents. This is the hardest part. This is why we need accountability, and I'm totally open if you're interested in starting some kind of veteran support group, a 2-way regular thing. I can do weekly, guys. My schedule's not full yet. My business model here is to help the people first, and your word of mouth will present opportunities for me to be compensated later, you know? Right. So I'm doing free mastermind groups, or at least I'm available to, if someone will take the lead. Because I would rather grow a trainer, a master trainer that understands my methods and knows one of these techniques that I can refer to. And I will promote you in your business. If you have a business that can help veterans or people in mental health in general. Sorry, I'll try to hold still. I'll keep kicking the camera. So what you'll see here on the left is all the things that typically I see when I see a compensation and pension evaluation, when I render an independent medical opinion for a PTSD diagnosis, give 100% service connection or whatever. Right here is DD214. Everyone's familiar with that. What I want you to see is these are all clickable links. So if you don't have a copy of your DD214 and you're overwhelmed and you can't leave your bedroom, brother or sister, click on this link, take the very first step here to request a copy of your DD214, sir or ma'am, okay? And then print this page out and put it on your refrigerator if you have one. If you don't have a printer, maybe make a note. If you've got a phone, put this in a notes tab at the bare minimum to track yourself and write down that today's date you requested your DD214 and you have started the tracker. That's how it works. And you need to finish phase 1 before you can cross the phase line. You can't go into phase 2 until you finish phase 1 objectives. And you may not need everything on this list, okay? So that's what I'm going to spend my time on. The things you may or may not need when you may or may not need them, okay? So for example, if you've never been in the National Guard or the Air Guard, you don't need an NGB form. That's National Guard Bureau Form 22. All right? If you don't have a copy of your military medical record, this is good to have anyway. Go to that website, it's at the archives, click in and download that. I think it's good because you want to go through all of your medical records, from sick call slips, anything that happened on active duty in the military medical record at all, and look specifically for what their diagnoses are. What diagnosis? And write that down on a separate list. Okay? Separate list. So I'm going to pause here and make this a little more interesting. And I'm going to jump over here to implied tasks. All right? You need to get a computer. You need to get a 3-ring binder. If you can get access to a printer, that's great, because you're going to want to print a physical copy out of this so you can take it to your medical appointments as well. But at the very least, create files and folders on your computer to save all these types of medical records. And come up with a plan for how you're going to have this one-page tracker. Where you're going to keep it on your fridge? Are you going to put it in the front of your 3-ring binder or on the outside cover of the 3-ring binder? That's probably what I would do. That's what I do with my credentialing trackers. Keep up with my 4 state medical licenses and other controlled substance prescription licenses and stuff like that. I have to have my own tracker. And it makes me feel in control and powerful. Make the tracker, even if you haven't done anything yet, and have an empty binder and get a 3-hole punch, and you're ready for business, you see? And you'll feel better today when you take action, because stuck, trapped energy in the body is very much related to procrastination and clearing out your house and your closet and your garage and your projects and your tasks, like moving and selling and downsizing your life. So if you haven't hit that stage and your house is full of crap and you can't walk in your garage, you got tons and tons and tons of stuck energy. And if you can't clear it out even when you want to, you just kind of can't, then you can do energy release work and find that then you can go in there and clear it out. Just watch. Stick with me, and I'll tell you other crazy stuff like that. All right, VA decision letters. So if you have already submitted a claim in the past, even if it was for tinnitus 30 years ago, I want to see that, because I'll refer back to it, and it will remind me to ask you about it. I'm good at teasing out symptoms you may not have thought about. That's why this list is so long, because you may not have thought about it, and I can get you 10% more for that. Okay? That's what it is. It's about making your disability compensation right. If there's something buried in your records because you're a warrior and you don't talk about your problems, then at a certain point, that personality style is hurting you. Primum non nocere. First, do no harm. I'm a medical doctor. I took that oath in 2003, and I took it seriously. I've taken more than one oath. I've taken the oath to defend this country, the United States, foreign and domestic, twice. I think that's something. And I tried to resign once and they wouldn't let me and redeploy me. Yeah, so I've had some interesting experiences that you'll hear about in the private community only. Right, VA medical records. So if you don't have a copy of your VA medical records, you can get that online. You can get access pretty quick, usually within the first week. If you'll follow the process, patient, persistent, loving intention. Let me tell you something right now. This is really hard for some veterans to deal with the VA. They get angry. They get pissed. They feel like the government should treat them better. They should at least know not to mess up Veterans Day and Memorial Day. But they still do. And it will hurt you if you stick around there long enough. Once in a while, it may bother you. Something you see. What you don't realize is that you don't know what you should be upset with that you're accepting all the time. For example, their plastic water bottles, and maybe their tap water in the water fountain in the hallway at the VA clinic or hospital. Don't drink the water. Take your own water in stainless steel, filtered from home, that can filter out fluoride everywhere you go. Otherwise, they're giving you their forever chemicals that hurt, and BPA plastic hurts and targets the hippocampus in the brain, the same area I started talking out about at the beginning, about cortisol, sleep deprivation, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, and major depressive episodes all hurt the hippocampus in the brain, and so does a plastic water bottle. So the VA loves you, okay, but they're still going to give you plastic water bottles. So there's going to become a time when you're going to get rubbed the wrong way by something you see the government doing. It happened to me. I just gave you one of my pet peeves right there. If you work for the VA, you need to make a poster. If you want to work with me on making a poster for clinic walls, we can do this together. This would be a great mastermind project. I'll have you on the podcast to talk about it afterwards. If you're interested in jumping on that train, we can make a poster for a clinic wall that says, don't drink plastic water bottles. It hurts the hippocampus in the brain. I'm going to throw out a lot of ideas for advocacy, because veterans walking into clinic and anyone going into PTSD clinic does not need to be offered plastic water bottles at their appointment. And if you see that happening, you become a mind shift advocate to change that part of the world. Change that thing in our world. You can change it. You just have to put in the patient, persistent, loving intention. So check this out. Starting here. Look at the definition of my logo. This little hand symbol with the green leaves and the healing cross. Healing comes through natural means with patient, persistent, loving intention. I'm going to say that again. Healing comes through natural means with patient, persistent, loving intention. So if you're angry at the VA, trying to get your VA medical records, maybe you can't get the password to work, the double authentication not working, the monitor creeped out, the internet modem just cycled out, and you haven't slept in months. You cussing, all right? Right. Switch it to laughter. Put some funny music or comedy on. Make yourself laugh with something like Dumb and Dumber. And then remember what I said. Go back and look at my Start Here button. Go to my website, mindshiftcare.com. Click Start Here and read this out loud. Remember, every time you get upset, patient, persistent, loving intention. And if that's not working for you, it's because you're not in touch with the natural means, and that's meditation. And, soaking in the ambience of the radiance that is within and without. If you read the cover of the documentary, The Healing Field, that's what the Qigong expert said. And the VA accepts Qigong, guys. So I'm not out in left field totally. I'm just a complementary and alternative medicine expert now in the field of PTSD. Okay? Because I'm a certified practitioner with the One Light Healing Touch program. So watch that other documentary interview with Penny Loudon. Watch episode 10 if you want to know how to heal yourself. Okay? So that's my answer to how you deal with the frustration of going through this, getting appointments and medical records. It's frustrating. It's overwhelming. So put this on your fridge, one day at a time, enjoy your life. And then just watch your tracker make a little progress when you've got the time and emotional energy to do so. Okay? You can do some of these in the middle of the night when you can't sleep. This will put you to sleep. It's boring. Right. So we need to mind shift the whole thing and put it on one page and make this easy. And make it free and make it a resource that can help your buddy, maybe even save somebody's lives. And if this effort saves your life or someone else, please let me know about it. Be the greatest feather in my cap. Thank God, I'm so grateful. And I will not knock on wood. I will thank God that none of my patients have ever committed suicide. And I don't know any psychiatrists that can say that. It's definitely not a bragging, boastful thing. But I can tell you that you can see how thorough I am with my website, right? This program. Here I am basically coming up with an entirely new way to do mental health support that's global and scalable for the masses by myself. Right? That sounds kind of crazy until you see it working here. Because I need you to help me. It won't work if you don't join. Okay? So look at this. Let's go on to statement of support. And I'm going to read a paragraph about statement on support for that one. Right off here. Because I think this is important. The VA Disability Evaluations page. I've got an article here that's worth reading. There are things I mentioned in this video that are not on the website, and there are things I mentioned on the website article post that are not in this video. And for this statement of support, I'm actually going to read to make sure I don't miss any of this stuff, because this is how you can get started on your VA claim first. Request a copy of your DD-214 and then do one of these. It's an easy first day to get this started. It's a very easy first day to get this started. So a statement in support of claim. I see this with all of them. If this is missing, it's hard to make the diagnosis of circumstantial PTSD. It's a little harder. Because then I have an evaluation and I say, yes, they told me this. And then their very next question, say if it's a military sexual trauma itself, the very next question is, what are the markers that this event happened? Markers, paperwork, behavior change, getting in trouble. Those are the three big categories. Paperwork includes, did you make a police report? Is there a restricted SARC report, the sexual response coordinator? Did you deal with that, restricted or unrestricted? Any of that stuff. Most of the time there's no paperwork. And because of good reason, I cite in my reports research articles that say why veterans and men and women have differences in whether they'll seek help on military sexual trauma and whether they'll stick with it. All right? So I assume you don't have a lot of paperwork, right? Because that is the case about 80% of the time. But sometimes you do, and you may have forgot about it. You may have forgot that you went to the ER and got you wouldn't forget you got a rape kit, but you might forget that you had a urinalysis, or maybe just a simple pregnancy test done, or you just got treated for chlamydia and gonorrhea proactively once or something after some event. And if you were drugged or drunk, that doesn't matter. You may have fuzzy memories of it. Okay? And some of our patients have like no sex life after that, or they can't turn their sex organs off. So I'm developing a protocol that works for both. And it mixes in life coaching and tantric therapy. So I'm all over the place because trauma scatters all your energy, and that's ancient. The Chinese have always said that. And it can affect the body in a lot of different ways. Lots of different ways. Like some veterans tell me they have secrets about it. They had to get alone and go lay in the forest, or they would fish and catch themselves staring and not fishing for hours at a time, or blank out in conversations. So I want you to think about anything and everything to put in your statement of support of claim. Tell them your story. Tell them what you're claiming, specifically the diagnoses that you found in your medical records. If you don't know, don't guess. You can, it just makes the paperwork a little harder. I have to say, when you said mental health condition, you meant whatever I diagnose. I have to add another sentence if you guess at your diagnosis. That's what I'm trying to say. I just had to add another sentence. So it doesn't matter what you say. You can't make it wrong. I'll have a good, thorough assessment, and it'll be okay. It'll be a lot more painless than you think. It's pretty rare for my veterans to start crying. Only the ones that have never said a damn word their whole life. It's so important to them to make this appointment that the motivation bubbles up in the form of tears, but that's it. It only means that it's connected to deeper inner motivation. And that is not a bad electromagnetic wave you want to release. That is love washing the wound. You're loving yourself to make this appointment, and that in itself is mental health care. So if you can do this, you're already better. Okay? You are already better if you can just do this. It's not easy even to collect your medical records. That's why I'm taking so long to explain this and let you hear my style and how I tell my patients what I tell them. So there's a form here, VA Form 21-4138. You don't have to use it. It looks pretty cool to have all your paperwork on official forms, but you can write it directly on a blank piece of paper. So keep in mind that PTSD is now accepted as a circumstantial evidence diagnosis. It's the only one that you can come back 30 years later and say, I was raped, with no evidence. And they accept it so long as you get this list of paperwork I'm giving you this entire lecture. They will accept it if you give the paperwork from this entire lecture as all of it circumstantial. And I would be looking at addictions, self-abuse, divorce. In self-abuse, I even look at lack of self-care. You're not flossing your teeth. You're not working out. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not trying to get better. You don't care what you eat. You're getting out of shape. You've let yourself go. That's not like a veteran, is it? It's not like a veteran. Because did you know that statistically, that most veterans, statistically, are the healthiest group in the United States? And I may be in that category. Close. I'm close. Once I do my own program and follow my own advice, I think I'm going to be there. I'm going to have blood work to prove it. And if I'm right on my detox that I've shared here in my podcast, then I'm going to make a documentary about it. So I'm pretty serious that I think you can get healthier even though you're broken. So I'm going to have a mixed martial arts program coming online that's more like fit for life oriented. So your goal is to be able to protect your family, your friends, your property, and get involved in altercations if you have to assist law enforcement to keep the peace. It's more of a peacemaker for life program, you know. And if I can get it changed where National Guard and Air Guard, this is crazy, I shouldn't say this, would change it where they can have access to VA services and service connections for state orders, state active duty. Right now, they don't get PTSD if they get hurt on the Texas-Mexico border mission. And I saw people die out there. I didn't see it personally, but while I was on duty, a soldier died in the river, and the other soldiers watched, and they can't talk to a PTSD expert. If they have emotional problems from witnessing their fellow soldier die because they're on state active duty orders, they can only get workers' compensation. And I can promise you they do not see a PTSD expert like me. They don't get service connection at the VA for that if they're on state orders, only if they're federalized. If I can get that changed before the age of 60, I will go to peace officer school. I'll become a law enforcement officer, or at least the peace officer certification at an old age. Why not? What a story would that be? Would it help penetrate your stubborn buddies out there? I'll do it for your buddy. I'll do it for you if it will help, because I rejoined the Army to become a PTSD expert at the age of 40. So what about becoming a peace officer by the age of 60? That's kind of a neat story. Anyway, it's a crazy idea, but I might do it. Especially if I can get on Joe Rogan, and I would have a lot of fun on the Joe Rogan show. A whole lot of fun. It would be more fun than watching Elon Musk. More fun than Elon Musk. All right. The next document is the lay witness statement. There's another form here, VA Form 21-101-10. This is a buddy lay witness statement. This is a buddy or a friend or a family member, maybe your spouse, significant other, sibling, or parent that knows you and knows how you were before and after the military, or how you've been doing lately, something along those lines. And I recommend you just pre-fill out this form for them with your personal information on it. Give it to your loved one and have them fill it out for you. It will speed it up for them. The forms will look great in the stack if you use these proper forms. It'll look great in the stack. What does that mean? It's a subconscious thing. But with me, you're going to learn subconscious is important. In fact, you can heal yourself once you learn to make the subconscious conscious. Whoa. That's a mind shift. That is how it works. All right, step 4 would be to attend a mind shift care appointment. So once you get all your documents together, including civilian medical records of every place you've been to, then you want an appointment for compensation and PIM. So once you've got all these documents, I think I forgot one here. The statement of traumatic events. That's a separate form if you're claiming any kind of trauma, whether it's life-threatening or not. Use this form because you can get a PTSD diagnosis off of it, or you can get a other trauma specified disorder, something like that. Other specified trauma disorder. And remember, it doesn't matter if we call it PTSD or not. If it was not life-threatening or force of violence, then it can't be PTSD. But it might be other specified trauma, and so it might be milder than that. Like that mild military sexual trauma I had. If for some reason that threw me over the loop, because I'm so fragile, then what matters is, how am I doing? And so all of this packet is job insurance, right? It's job insurance. So when you get service connected as a veteran, and let's say you get 10% service connection for my neck, and then 25 years later it gets worse. This is my actual real story. Now I can't sleep over it. Now I'm much higher than 10% because I can't do 40 hours a week. I can't sit still. I can't sleep. I'm unpredictable in the morning because I may have been up all night. And fortunately, I'm going to teach you my program for chronic pain. After this program for veterans, my next order of business is my chronic pain program. So this podcast is completely live right now. It has been for the last 3 episodes. I am completely available to you right now, October 5th, 2025. Okay, this is live, going into the holidays, and I'm hoping to have a quick and rapid launch, because if I don't have the financial success that comes with a venture like this, then it compromises my ability to be an independent voice for mental health. So I'd love to help people for free and build a website that has so much value in it. It just becomes one of those subscriptions. You can join and sign the classes and get the training while I'm sleeping at night. And if that's earning my money, and so that during the day I can make amazing cool videos. I can come to your clinic where they're doing amazing work somewhere in the country. I'll bring the RV mobile spa to your site, get to know you in person. I'll do a treatment on you in person. I want to do mental health different and raise awareness and get people holistic. And I'm looking for veterans to help me do that. So if I can turn you around, I love the skeptics because I was one of them. I have a documentary that's pro-vaccine and pro-military. I have a research publication in a peer-reviewed journal that is anti-essential oils. And I flipped on a few other things too. I keep flipping. I flipped on cannabis after 25 years. So I follow the science, I follow the spirit, and I feel like together we can mastermind this and be led into more truth. And so I anticipate that by the year 2030, we'll have some publications coming out from the ideas presented in the show, because high school students, nurses, doctors, residents in training, especially pre-meds. I am an expert in pre-meds. Check out my CV on the pre-meds I got into med school that could not get into med school on their own. I got data for that. So I've been a long distance mentor since 2007. All right, so one comment last here about civilian medical records. Okay, the civilian medical records are from all of the doctors you've been to since you got out. And by law, they're supposed to keep the records for 7 years, so you may not be able to go very far back. So look everywhere for your medical records. Check your emails, your taxes, your receipts, your file folders you got stuffed away, maybe boxes in the garage, and see what you can come up with from your memory. And basically, each one of those civilian establishments, say even your chiropractor, your acupuncturist, or your psychologist, they all have their own consent to release information forms. Before they can give you a copy of your medical records, they have to have you sign one of their forms. That's why these civilian medical record links are not clickable links, because I don't know your hospital. You'll have to go to your hospital, number one here, and get its form from them and submit it to them to have it be released to you. You're going to want a digital copy. If they don't provide digital copies, you have to find a way to get a scanner. Okay? And FedEx or different office places can offer things like that in town if you're in a city. Or use your phone. There's good apps that turn photos from your phone of documents into good PDFs that you can work with. You may need to get that app for a month so you can get this done. It'll be worth it, right? It will be worth it if you can avoid an advocate fee and get all this done by following this one-page sheet and save your buddies too. Come on, let's have a support group and let's take over. Veterans know that America is falling apart and it's being steered into the ground on purpose. Veterans know it. We've been watching it in the commies for a long time. Yeah, and so who's going to lead when we really lose it? You know, when law enforcement's overwhelmed and there's riots and if it comes to that, I used to be a behavioral health officer. I would love to have the peacemakers of the world know about energy healing and being balanced, and not just make it worse. If we're going to reinvent society, we need the healers to be like Norway prisons are. You know, watch an episode called The World's Toughest Prisons, and it's called The Perfect Prison in Norway. Something like that. Look at the Norway one, the episode. In 2 years of psychology training, with everyone involved in the prison system and the way they organize the units, and they have people on the cell block with the same staff the entire stay that they stay there. They develop relationships and do interpersonal therapy, really. And 2 years of psychology in-service training, like at lunch, for the people that work there. So they have a different culture and attitude, and they're teaching very much stuff like this. We can do that. We can have law enforcement know mental health a whole lot better than they do. Some of them are great at it when you watch cops, and others can't see the traumatic brain injury that's happening right in front of them, you know. Or you can see that their own trauma is activated and their fight or flight still so activated that they're not seeing the whole situation for what it is. And that's usually because of past stuck energy. Cops can learn how to do emotion code in their car like this, with a prayer inside their head. No one even has to know what's happening. If I can teach you to move the energy yourself and teach you, you know, then you can heal yourself. And if I can teach you to take care of yourself better, to realize that that's mental health care. Doing mental health care is self-care. By doing this checklist, you've improved your mental health today. So this is not mind shift. This is not a mind shaft. Welcome to Mind Shift Care, an independent voice for behavioral health.